Good afternoon and welcome to another Masterclass Online. I'm Olivia Ruello, CEO of Business Chicks, and I'm so grateful to have you online with us today. We've all made it through another week, so let's just all start by celebrating that. For all the months that it took to get through March, April is going surprisingly fast. So 1 week to go, and welcome to all of you. Some of you have joined us for every single Masterclass live that we've done, and I just want to say a huge thank you because we are continuing to produce these at a rate of knots and continue to ensure that the content is relevant, useful, and full of some of Australia's and the world's leading experts. So thank you. What have we got coming up at Business Chicks? Well, some of you may have seen that we launched another beautiful edition of our All Stars event, this time a homegrown version, which is particularly exciting for us, supporting some of the amazing Australian speakers who have graced our stage over the last decade and completely blown you away with their beautiful stories, thought leadership, energy, enthusiasm for life, and all-round awesomeness. So that is next Thursday. We've been joined by world champion surfer Lane Beachley, Oz Harvest founder Ronnie Khan, Lorna Jane founder Lorna Jane, and speaker and author Kemi Nekvapul, and biochemist and author Dr. Libby Weaver. Please, please, please tune in with us next Thursday for that. Even if you can only make one session and then watch the other 4 on the weekend or at night or whenever it is that is possible for you, we really, really encourage you to get that glass full feeling that we're hoping to create with our All Stars events. So before I introduce the awesome speaker we have today, you will notice if you're new to Masterclasses that on the right-hand side there's a panel with a drop-down questions box. Please be putting your questions in as they pop into your head, and I will do my best to get to them at the end of this session. So ask as many questions as you want, and we will really try to get to as many as we possibly can. Okay, so let's get started. How to lead a team remotely. For a lot of you on the webinar today, it's a completely new thing. You're used to working in offices and being face-to-face, and it is a very, very different proposition suddenly having your team on the other end of a screen. So this is going to be a hugely insightful and helpful masterclass from the remarkable Christine Kaur. Chris is a beautiful friend of Business Chicks. She's been a member for many, many years. She is one of the country's leading people and leadership experts and the managing director of Chorus Executive and CEO and co-founder of People Coach, which is an on-demand career, health and wellbeing platform. She is truly the most knowledgeable woman in this space, and we are absolutely honoured to have her with us today. Take it away, Chris.
Okay, thank you very much for that lovely welcome. Hold on, let me share my webcam and get all my privacy settings off so that you can now see me. Okay. Thank you so much for joining today, and I've got 1 hour with you to share with you my thoughts on and my opinions on leading a virtual team. Now, a lot of the things that I'm going to say are things that you should be doing leading a team anyway, but it even becomes more important now where we don't have physical contact with people. And to be honest, we're all going through so much that you know, it's difficult to maintain our own states, let alone states for our peers and our colleagues and our teams. So for people that don't know me, you know, I do a lot of things. I was a marketer, or I am a marketer, recruitment, coaching, and I've got 2 businesses. I'm highly overeducated. I've got an MBA, a BA, a grad dip, a dip, something else. I've got, you know, lots of different qualifications. But really, I think what gives me the confidence to stand here or sit here today and talk to you about leadership is because every day for the last sort of 30 years of my life, I have spent my time talking to employees and businesses about what makes businesses strong, what makes leaders great, and you know, what builds careers. particularly my work with the Hunger Project. So we all know business chicks are, you know, lovers of the Hunger Project. I'm a national board director there. I facilitate trips overseas, and every time I go there, I learn so much from the people there who have no resources, no education, and many times no food, but how they stand up and lead and mobilize, you know, tens of thousands of people every day. So I guess my approach has always been, for anyone that knows me, I'm pretty much to the point, but I'm also very practical in the way that I approach things. So this will be a learning exercise, and it will also be something that I'll expect you to do some work as well. It's not just me sitting here talking, it will be you taking action. Just as a quick summary, as I know, we do a lot of things, but one of the things, my newest venture, and ladies, you can do anything at any time. I started a tech business at 50. So if I can do it, you can do it. But what we do is career and succession planning, leadership development, and lots of leadership work at a disruptive price point. Now, you can't have any discussion about leadership without hearing from the amazing Simon Sinek. So let me just play, and I can't believe if that's gone to the wrong thing. Let me just play this for you, and it's just going to set us up for today's webinar.
The sound isn't working there, Chris.
Oh, how do you do that?
I'm not too sure. Let me just...
Okay. Okay. Now, one thing about leadership, lovelies, is that we must be flexible. So let me just tell you about, let me just tell you now about what Simon Sinek says. What he says is that leadership is like parenting. And I use this saying every day. And when I say it, it's not about saying, you know, that the people that you are leading are children that need to be disciplined and taught and put to bed when they're naughty. What he means is when you're a parent, you do what you do to empower and teach your children to be powerful individuals and strong individuals when you leave them. You know, the biggest job that a parent can do is make themselves redundant. When your child no longer needs you to tie their shoelace, you're making yourself redundant, you're making them empowered. When they learn to cook, when they learn to get their first job, when they learn to be good people, that's what we do. And we do it for the love of them, for them to be better. True leaders do it for the benefit of their employees, and the benefit of the employees then benefits the organisation. So, and I truly believe that when we're leading people, when we're, you know, developing people, that we need to have that mindset of really helping people be the best that they can be for them, which will then benefit the organisation. So it is a mindset shift of how you approach people. He also says that leadership is not something that you do and get instant gratification. So in this era of instant gratification, the leadership journey is a long one. And his example there is, if you go to the gym, you know, we all know that going to the gym and doing exercise is good, but if you go for today, you come back, you're not going to lose that weight. You're not going to get those abs. You know, you're not going to be able to lift, you know, 100 kilos. And in fact, all you'll get is pain. If you do it for 2 days, if you do it for 3 days, the same thing. You'll see no discernible difference, most likely, in your body over a 3-day or 4-day or even a week period of time, except that you'll be sore and you might have spent some money on a personal trainer or a gym membership. So you know, the benefits of leadership do not come in a day or a week. They come over periods of time. And like parenting, he said that you don't know that you're a good parent until the child's grown up. So until they're 20 or 30 or 40, do you actually know if you've done a good job parenting? And it's the same with leadership. You know, you need to invest the time. It's a long-term journey. It's not a destination. So, and that really frames, I guess, my philosophy of leadership. It's not a quick fix. It's a constant learning, and, you know, it's something that we all need to invest in. So the first poll I would like to, before we get started, is I just want to understand, how do you rate yourself as a leader today? So Maggie's going to just pop up a little poll there. If you can just answer that question, how do you rate yourself as a leader today? I'll give you a minute to do that. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. We've closed that. So I can see from those results that, you know, 30% of you are saying some good days, some bad days. And I think that's a really honest response given these situations. I think we all feel a bit that. 21%, which I think is wonderful, think that you're a pretty good leader. 27% okay, and nobody, or 1% of people, think you're doing a terrible job. So good on you, ladies. I think I really applaud you for, you know, believing in yourself and your leadership. Okay, I'm going to go back to sharing now. I don't know where that's gone. Sorry, guys. Okay. So my sessions are like live coaching sessions. So let's treat this as a really big coaching session, okay? So the first thing you need to do is take notes. And when you take notes, I don't want you to take notes of what I've said. I want you to take notes of what that action is. Leadership is not a noun, it is a verb. It's a doing, right? We need to be leaders, not just talk about leadership. So when you hear me say something, I want you to think about an action that you can take from that insight, not just the insight. I want you to ask questions if I haven't answered them, and as much as possible, we'll, you know, sort of have a summary time at the end. After you know, you've closed this down and you've gone back to daily life, you need to take, you know, do those actions. Actually get up and do it. So as you know, we talk in our family, it's not about the this, it's not about the talking, it's actually about what you're doing. And finally, and most importantly, you need to allocate time to develop your craft of leadership. It doesn't just happen. Now, I hate to tell you this, guys, but leading a virtual team is the same as in the real world, but it's harder. And the unfortunate thing, and you know, why I have a job and lots of organizations, coaches and leadership development people have jobs, is because, you know, there's not always a lot of leadership out there in the real world. And so now is a very difficult time for people. Not only are we, you know, and you've heard it, unprecedented times, but, you know, we have personal things that are going on in our lives. We have health things going on in our lives, as well as our communities and our world. And we don't have the support networks that we used to have, you know, our buddies that we'd go out for lunch with, or, you know, our buddies sitting next to us. And we need to make much more effort. And I'm sure that you have all seen the very best leaders come to fore, like people that you might not even have thought was a leader, who have stood up and really, you know, inspired you, and people that have got the title of leader, or maybe they don't, who are not standing up at all. And it's when we're under pressure that we see the true, you know, what people are truly made of. The reality is, a lot of the things that I'm going to say to you now, you should be doing in the real world, but we need to focus on it now, because staying connected, being an inspiration for your team, being there and a support for your team is even more important than it ever was. And the other thing about being in a remote world is the things that used to create culture and support are no longer there. So, you know, you create banter and a culture because somebody would say a joke over the partition and somebody else would hear it, and you'd walk together and you'd all laugh, and then you'd have a little bit of a chat, and then you go back to work. You don't have that anymore. In a meeting, you'd be able to observe body language, or you might have a team member come to you and say, hey, you know what? I think that, you know, John is, you know, he's got an issue with his wife or his kid. I think he needs a little bit of TLC, you know, maybe spend some time. You don't have that anymore, that banter, that catching up in the tea room and saying, hey, how you going? How was your weekend? There is none of that. So as leaders, you need to make more of an effort to have those communications. And let me just say, A leader is not someone with the title or the team. A leader is every single one of us. Whether we have that title or team, we are there, we are an inspiration to others. People look at the way we operate, they hear what we're saying, whether it's our family, whether it's, you know, juniors in our teams or organizations, whether it's our leaders, you know, they all are looking at us. So please, when you're listening to this and I talk about the word leader, I mean every single one of us is a leader, not just the people with the titles and theoretically the bigger pay packets. Now, for some of us, we're quite lucky, right? And we know what we're going to do at the end of the, you know, we're successful in life because at school we realized what we were going to do. We got the marks that we wanted. We met that perfect partner. We've never had a career mistake, and, you know, we can eat anything that we want and we don't get fat. Some of us are lucky like that. For the most of us, we're not. For the most of us, we've made mistakes. You know, we've dated lots of douchebags before we met the one. We have to go to the gym even when we don't want to, and we can no longer eat what we want, you know, and still maintain a healthy weight. Most of us have made some sort of career mistake. Most of us have had to put a plan in place when we wanted to build our first house or buy our first house. You know, we've had to put a savings plan in place to get what we want. The same goes for being a leader. Not many of us just, you know, are born with natural leadership that just amazingly just know what to do and how to treat people and how to get them inspired and excited and to follow us. Most people have made some sort of mistake. And so the biggest mistake I feel with leadership is that people just, they get a title or a promotion and a team, and they are technical experts and they jump into this role of leader and they do the same thing without actually investing any time or effort to defining, you know, what an ideal leader is. So in my, you know, work, and one of our exercises that we would normally do, which I can't do here, but what I would ask you to do is actually look at who are the people that inspire you, that people that you define as good leaders, and what are the attributes of those people. Now, I've given you some pictures there, and they're all easy, you know, ones to say. It's because they're mostly inspiring. But, you know, think about the people that you've worked with. Who are the people that you would, you know, run through walls with for? Who are the people that you would change a job for? What did they do, and what did they, how did they make you feel? The next question is, you know, what about those people? And they could be colleagues or ex-managers or hopefully not current managers. You know, who are they? What are those people that you do not want to be with? The people that demotivate you, that crushed you, that make you feel incompetent or, you know, hated going to work. How did they behave? What were their principles, and you know, how did they make you feel? The third part of that is to combine those two lists and then define your own leadership principles. And principles are one thing, behavior is actually, you know, what we're interested in. And then finally, the last part would be, you know, how do you embed that? For me, it's taken me a long time, but, you know, when we think about those, the principles that we want, you know, they have to be action oriented. So I'm going to tell you mine. So my first one is to be inspired. So I want to do work that makes me feel good. I want to work with people that make me feel I can do better. I want to be constantly learning new things and challenging myself. With that, I feel inspired. But hopefully out of that I am inspiring, that I'm acting in a way that makes other people feel that they can do better and be better. And one of my little mantras to myself is that every interaction I have with somebody, they leave with something more. It could be a joke, it could be a laugh, it could be a recipe, it could be an insight, it could be an opportunity. So they leave with something more. I want to be peaceful. Now, when I say peaceful, why I want to be that is I want to feel peace and calm in myself. You make better decisions. You're a better listener. You know, you're more giving of self when you feel at peace with yourself. Now, that doesn't mean I don't get emotional at different times, but it means that I can feel more peaceful. So when you think about your principles, think about the behavior that you will show, the behaviors you will have to show that. I guess when I talk to a lot of people, they'll say things like my principles are integrity and honesty and bravery and decisiveness, and they're all amazing, principles. But what does that actually mean? How will you behave? Bravery, does that mean that you will take the unpopular decision and you will stand alone when you know it's the right decision, but nobody else believes you? That's what bravery is. Honesty is sacking someone needs the job, that is the primary breadwinner, but they are not delivering, and it's not good for their own mental health, their career health, and it's not good for your team. But you're honest enough to have that decision or make that decision, but also have that conversation. So, after this session, take some time over the next week to think about who your ideal leader is, who are your antithesis of ideal leader, then define what your leadership principles are, and then what behaviors that you will show, especially during this time. And then what I do to embed is I ask you to rate yourself at the end of each day. Were you the leader that you wanted to be? And if you weren't, what would you change? The second thing, and I've said it before, is leadership is not a journey. It is a journey. It's not a destination. You don't go and do an MBA and come out and go, tick, I'm a great leader and manager now, and I don't need to do anything more. Leadership is something that we constantly learn. We develop as individuals. We have, new people that report to us. We have new issues to face. A strong leader, 2 months ago, may not be a strong leader now, because we're now in COVID, we're in lockdown, we're not being able to speak to anybody. All our business models are being totally disrupted. So who was strong before might not be strong now, but who is strong, who was weak before might be the most amazing leader today, right? Leadership, to make it a journey, constantly learning, is about getting feedback. So strong leaders get feedback. So request information, like more formalized ones, like 360-degree feedback. We all have these questionnaires, but go to your team, go to trusted people. Your teams know a lot about you, right? So ask them, how are you going? What can you improve? What mistakes have you made? So spend that time. And like you have to spend time and work out a plan at the gym, or whether it's a savings plan, or whether it's even creating a new garden. You've got to plan out when to plant things and that sort of thing. Spend time thinking about how you're going to develop your leadership capability and strength. Now, have people heard of the 5 love languages? It's a book that came out, I don't know, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that. And it came up talking about relationships, and it says, the love languages between people, well, that can actually make or break a relationship. So one of the best examples from a marriage perspective is, a woman's love language is, acts of service. So what she wants is the husband to come in, to wash the dishes, to change the nappy, to, mop the floor, and that, makes her happy, but also makes him much more sexually attractive. The man, for example, might be gifts or touch. So he comes in and gives her a pat on the bottom or buys her a present and is like, yeah, I've told her I love her. But they're 2 different languages. They're not hearing the same thing. Now, we've all got that sort of issue probably at home in some way. So it's about understanding that in a partnership. It's also about understanding that with your team. At this time, look, again, this is one that should be done all the time, but it's even more critical now. Spend the time to get to know your team and support them and tell them that you appreciate them in the way that they need to be appreciated. So for some, it will be gifts. So for gifts in the corporate environment or the work environment, might be a bonus, might be movie tickets when we can go to the movie, might be a hamper. I'm seeing lots of things of people saying, I'm sending hampers to my team. Now, that's obviously the language of the manager saying she or he just likes gifts. But for another person, they might be going, God, I don't want you to send me a hamper. I just want you to ring me up every day and tell me how I am, or you ask me how I am. So understand what their love language is. Kind words is pretty self-explanatory. thanks for doing a good job, you know, really appreciate it. It might be one-on-one, it might be to a group, right? Acts of service is actually doing things to help. Now, again, that could be, you know, if you know that your person is struggling at home, managing at-home schooling, and, you know, they might not want a gift hamper, but you know what? If you got somebody to send them over some, you know, pre-packaged foods, a Marley spoon, for example, or something like that, that's an act of service. Even though it's a gift, it's you know, I'm helping you cook better or easily or something like that. Quality time in a corporate environment is literally just spending time. So that's when, and when I say spend time, it's not just letting people into your office or into your Zoom, but actually being 100% present. It's really, really hard when people are wanting to spend time with you and you're on the phone or you're looking at an email. I mean, I was doing a session today with somebody and they kept on looking at their, you know, phone because they could see their phone binging. That's not quality time. That's quantity time. So really be present. And again, now that we're on virtual, it's even harder, right? Because you can't really see all the fidgeting and you can't really see, you know, somebody's facial expression move. So you need to spend more attention. And finally, touch. Now, touch is not necessarily a good thing in the corporate environments, and that's hard for me because I am a hugger. But, you know, touch can be a smile. Touch can be, you know, a wink in a meeting or a nod. Like I know, like literally what I'm looking at is my own screen. I cannot see anybody. And I know, you know, I was speaking to my husband about it. He said, oh, it's better to do it virtually, this, you know, presentation than in front of, you know, 800 people or whatever. And I said, no, with 800 people, I would see people nodding. I would see people smiling. I would see, you know, but here I just see a blank screen. So think about that, you know, that visual support, which is like touch. If you are in a virtual meeting with people, please make sure that you're focused, that you're looking at them, or they feel that you're looking, that you're nodding, that you're smiling. There's nothing worse than being, you know, facilitating or even, you know, chairing a meeting. You've got people like this, or, you know, people with their phone going like this, or even like this, like that. That's quite difficult. So make the time to spend time getting to know your team. The other thing is we're seeing a lot of people's houses. We're seeing people's bedrooms. We're seeing kids walk past. We're hearing dogs, you know, so spend the time there to be a little bit more vulnerable. You're going to learn more about your team than you ever will, about what's working and what's not. You as a leader, you know, you need to maintain composure, but it's also okay to say, I'm having a hard day, and show a bit of vulnerability. Trust and be trusted. Now, this is a really big thing across the board. Old school, the way we manage people in old school is what time are you in, what time are you out, and I can see you. I can see that you're on the phone. I can see you're playing Facebook. I can see, you know, what you're doing. That's all gone. We cannot see what we're doing. So as leaders now, you need to trust your people that they can do what they need to do. You need to trust their decisions, because you're not there for them to run to, or their colleagues aren't there for them to run to ask, is this the right way? Should I do it this way? What do you think, right? We're having to make many more decisions in isolation just to keep the ball rolling. So, you know, you need to trust your team. And will they do it differently? Yes. Might they fail and get it wrong? Yes. You've got to hope and assume that they're doing it for the right reasons. Like nobody's waking up saying, oh, let me see how I can muck up today and make it wrong for my boss. So you've got to trust them that they're doing what they need to do. To do that, you need to be trustworthy, right? So you need to say what what you expect. You need to be honest with them. You need to be and tell them exactly what they need, and do what you say that you're going to do. As an employee, you know, if you're now sitting here saying, I don't think my boss trusts me, or he or she's micromanaging me or checking in with me all the time, you know, be really clear. Actually ask the question, is there an issue? You know, do you not trust me? If you don't trust me, what's the problem, right? What can I do to make you trust me? And what I also usually find is when there's a trust scenario, it's not, sometimes it's because of the, employee. A lot of times it's because of the person, right? The manager. They they don't trust something, they're a control freak, they've been burnt in the past, something around that. Sometimes they're doing it unconsciously. So having that conversation is really, really important. And as a leader, if you really can't trust somebody to make a decision or do the work that they need to do, challenge yourself about why. Is it because of you? Like, are you just not a trustworthy place? Are you a control freak? Do you want, to know everything? And therefore, do you need to? Like, how much are you stifling everybody around you by that? And if you really don't trust them because they're incapable, then they shouldn't be on your team. And that's a hard thing to say in this environment, but I'm going to say this as a general rule across all leadership. If you cannot trust the people that you work with, either you've got to train them or you've got to get rid of them, right? You've got to have a conversation, because it's not okay to have people on your team that you do not trust, and make it even more so now. And for individuals, employees, trust yourself. Step up, right? Start to make decisions, and it's okay to make a mistake, and just, think it through, make the decision and stand by it, and then learn from it. The follow-up from trust and being trustworthy is to delegate and empower. And a lot of the leadership work that I do is around working with leaders, whether they're new leaders or, very seasoned leaders, is helping them to delegate and empower others. And unfortunately, what tends to happen is we are promoted because we're good at what we do. We're a good salesperson, so we become a sales manager. We're good HR practitioner, so we become an HR director. But they're two different skills. Leading a team and doing the do are two different things. And what I often find is that people don't delegate and don't empower because they feel safer being the technical expert. They can do it faster. If you're the manager of a team, I'll tell you right now, you can probably do it faster, better, quicker, and with less mistakes. But that's not the point. That's the same as parenting. I can cook a meal faster, better, cleaner than my children, but that's not empowering them for their future. I will never make myself redundant in the kitchen if I do not allow them to make mistakes, to have too much salt in the food sometimes, to make a mess. You need to allow people to learn and develop, and you as a leader need to empower your team to do that. Leaders that are too much in the detail, I'm going to challenge you. And what I would say to you if I was coaching you is, what are you scared of? Are you scared that you're not good enough to be the manager? Are you scared to lose control of the technical part that you are proficient at? Because that's why most leaders stay down in, micromanaging and working on people rather than looking up into the future. And at this time more than ever, as a leader, your role is to empower your people. It is not to do the work. Your job is to, you need to delegate some of your day-to-day tasks to other people so that you can spend the time calling in, checking in, creating, team meetings to make people feel that they are supported and cared for. So, this is a huge one about really allowing people to shine. Again, if you're an employee and you've got a manager that's not allowing you to do that, ask the question. Ask for what you want. Understand why perhaps they're not delegating to you, why they're not empowering you. Understand if there's something that you need to develop, because it could be you don't have the skills, or you haven't been trustworthy in the past. Rectify that and then take control of it. If there's any time in our working career that it's a time for change and a time for stepping up, it is now. So I really encourage you to do that. I've been running my own webinars, and we've been running polls through this. And one of the polls was, what are people worried about? And our last research showed like 40% of people worried about work-life balance, so they're working too long and it's too hard. And another 40% were worried about personal issues that are affecting their ability to work. So, it's really important to set and keep a daily agenda. And that daily agenda, the way I do it is the night before I work out all the things that I, have to achieve that day. I allow time for distraction, which sounds really weird, but things like, oh God, I've got to do the washing because, like, literally I've run out of tracksuit pants, so I have to, do my own washing. allowing time to go, all right, if I have a break, this finishes at, 1 o'clock, I'm going to have lunch from 1 to 1:30, I'm going to chuck the washing in, right? Actually allowing that time to be distracted so that while I'm working, I'm not thinking, oh God, I've got to put my tracksuit pants in, otherwise I've got no, good tracksuit pants for tomorrow, right? So you've got to plan that. You've also got to start, and set it with your family, if that's the case. So with me, I knew that I had this webinar at this time. I preempted it with the children. I said, like, you guys got to be quiet. My husband's like, okay, at 12:30, I'm going to go to the supermarket to get our lunch so that at 1 o'clock, so we've planned it all out so that it can work for all of us. If you're homeschooling children, it is the most difficult time. And although I think parenting is a partnership, for a lot of people, women are seeming to take more of the burden of homeschooling. So my encouragement to you there is have those conversations with not only your partners to say, if I'm working from 9 to 11, can you take 1 till 2 or whatever it may be, but also with your organisation, right? So, again, I did a coaching session with someone the other day and we actually worked out her agenda. She works part-time, but instead of her mindset was, let me do 3 solid days. And what we ended up is she's going to do 6 half days because that can work better. Like, we're in a new time. Let's be innovative. As long as the work gets done, I don't think any manager will care if you're working 6 half days instead of 3 full days, if that means that you can get some, clarity and some peace. But, setting the agenda, making sure that you've got breaks in there and, having an end time, because it is easy to, to look up and go, oh, it's 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock or the, computer's just there, I'll just answer another email. Just because we're at home, it's actually more important to take the time to go for a walk, to get some exercise, to get some fresh air, to spend some time talking to a friend, to do other things. So please set and keep an agenda. Just because you're at home, working from home, doesn't mean you have to work all the time at home. And look, you're going to hear a lot from every speaker. You're going to hear about keeping yourself healthy. Eating well, exercising, sleeping well are even more important for not just productivity, but emotional resilience, right? Whether we're all personally affected by COVID, but, some of us got more pressures than others. Just, look after yourself. Okay, I'm going to ask another poll now. So I'm just going to give you a minute or so. How would you describe your manager at this time? Wow, I'm seeing the results. I love it. Very unusual. This is not what I saw at my last poll, but 38% of you saying that you've got a real leader, 45% they're doing the best they can. But, there's some of us, about 17% that actually, ho-hum about their leadership. So to be honest, that's amazing. Amazing results during these times. Okay, next, okay. Now, invest in your team. It's really important during this time for people to invest in themselves, to think about where they want to be and have a future, right? So this is a point in time. In 3 months, in 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, we will change our perspective. So we still got to continue to invest in ourselves as individuals, and you as a leader, your role is to make sure that you are investing in your team, and making sure that they see some sort of future and moving forward. And it doesn't always mean money. Investing in your team could be time, so actually spending the time now to actually have a really good conversation about where they want to be, what they want to do, what their gaps are, what they're learning about themselves during this time. It could be setting up opportunities for them to be part of special project groups. It could be, now's the time for innovation. So all those projects that have been put on hold because of day-to-day grind and busyness, maybe hand one of those over to a passionate employee that's, passionate about that particular area. It definitely does also mean, supporting them if they want to do webinars like, this one, so spending the money and letting them attend. It could be getting a coach or a mentor. It could be letting them sign up for an online course. So it could be any number of things. But make sure that that is on your radar, that we're not just, so there's part about the, acute issue of looking after your team now while they're in isolation and going through personal things. But then there's also the long-term investment in your team and looking after their health, their career health, their leadership health, to make sure that when we come out of this, that they're ready and inspired to do even more and do even better. And, encourage them and investing in your team. And I'm going to say this to, employees, so people that don't have a team. Investing also doesn't mean just it has to be work related. Learning to play the guitar actually does amazing things to your and I'm just saying music generally. If you've always wanted to, go and learn the guitar now. It creates a different way that your brain works. You become more curious. There's a whole lot of different things. So anytime you learn something different, it actually does add value to the rest of your life. So don't just be linear to say, I must go and do a digital marketing course or a SEO course or a master Zoom course or anything like that. You can go and also learn music or presentation styles or, I don't know, become a singer, whatever you want to be. Invest in constant learning, read lots of books, podcasts, do all of that, and maybe also reach out to people that you would like to be mentored by. Now's the time that you might get that coffee that you would not have got in the real world. Okay, to both employees and leaders, please be flexible. I said before, 40% of people are worried about work-life balance. Another 40% of, people are worried about, have personal things that are going on around them. At-home schooling is a difficult burden for other people, for, people having children around you. If you're older like mine, it's fine. But if you've, like Liv, you've got younger ones, it's far more difficult. Be cognizant too that you've got very different family lifestyles. You've got people that have got elderly parents at home with them. You've got people that I spoke to a lady the other day, and she's got her young teenage cousin there living with them, and plus all the family came home. So you need to be flexible with your team. I was actually unfortunately I was coaching a managing director actually recently, and he said one of his frustrations was productivity with his team. And I asked for an example, and he said, I rang them 3 times, and each time they were doing something else not working. And I said, okay, what's the output? Have they delivered what they're supposed to deliver? He said, yep. And I said, okay, so what's the problem? And he said, no, I pay them from 9 to 5, and I expect them to work to 9 to 5. Oh my God, that is so not the right attitude, and anybody with that attitude must go. Work when you can work, when you're most productive. It might be starting at 7 o'clock and finishing at 3. If you're negotiating with your partner around who can look after the kids, it might be on a Saturday afternoon that you finish off that project. So please, as a manager, ask your team, what they need. And as an employee, if you need help, please go and speak to your manager. Don't assume that because, these are your working hours that you must stick to them. Ask them how you can be flexible around what you need, and you will deliver better output. And stop feeling guilty about it, right? It's okay to be in a bit of disarray. We are all in a bit of disarray, okay? And I'm going to pull the gender card, ladies. If you are taking most of the responsibility for the child rearing and the education, I challenge you to go and speak to your partner. He may not even know. He might not even realize that you've just taken it all and not even asked, sort of said how we're going to share it. And if he does know and he still didn't care, then, you need to force the issue, because parenting, if you're living together, is not it's parenting, right? There's 2 parents. So, make sure that you're asking for help when you need to. Okay, so this last one, I had some internal debate with myself, whether this was a innovate or whether it was going to be decisiveness or whether it was going to be brave or lead or courageous. And ultimately, I think this slide could be any of those things. This is the time for us to make change. Whether it's change, it's definitely change in our businesses. It might be change in our personal lives as well. This is the time to really question everything that's going on and how we can do it differently and better to make ourselves have more fulfilled and successful lives, careers, and businesses. And I would say challenge everything, right? If you're attending lots of meetings, but you sit there on mute and you are looking at your phone because you're totally bored and it's not relevant and you're not adding value, why are you there? Is there a need for that meeting, or is it just a controlling, lack of trust and lack of empowerment and delegation thing? Is it because of your ego that you wanted to go? Was it because of, politics that people make you go? Like, what is the purpose of the meeting? If there's no purpose, get rid of it. What is the purpose of you being there? If there's no value, get rid of it. Really challenge some of the systems and processes. Challenge, where you see your career going. Now is the time, maybe you can think about, is this really what I want? Do I want this? You can spend the time to think about that. Spend the time to think about, is this the way that you want to lead? Is this the legacy that you want to leave as a leader? What do you need to change? What do you need to get rid of? What do you need to gain? And, ask your team for new ideas. Your team definitely knows what can be improved. Some of those reasons you might think, you don't understand the impact over here, so that's not going to work, and that's great, but have the discussion so that they can understand. But some of them, they might know the ridiculousness of how ridiculous a system or process is, but never had the time or the bravery to raise it. So for those people in that boat, I'm asking you to put your hand up and go and speak to your manager. It's not the time for shrinking violets. This is the time for true leaders to stand up and to say what they need. And I'm not saying cause a revolution. I'm just saying improve stuff that needs to be improved, but you just haven't had the time or the inclination to do it, right? For leaders, you cannot say we don't do it that way, because who knows what way we do it now, right? This whole change has been the best, in some ways, the best thing for flexible working, because we all know we can do it now, right? There's a few glitches every now and then, and the NBN comes and turns off your internet, once a year. But apart from that, we can all work from home, okay? So there is time. We are ripe for change, and I speak to lots of HR people, and everybody's looking at how to do things differently and better. So I encourage you, I challenge you to stand up and be that, whether it's at work, and I think there's definitely options there, but it can be at home as well. What are you doing within your family environment? What are you doing with your friendship group? What are you doing to make your life more fulfilled and more successful? Okay, final poll. How would you rate the overall leadership in your organisation? Okay, so glad to see that 2% feel that there's no leaders in their business. 12% think they're totally inspired, so good on you. 62% saying they're pretty good, that you invest in a lot in leadership, so that's great. 11% totally uninspiring, and 13% they're weak, except unacceptable behaviours. So again, majority of the people here are in a really good boat. So fantastic, that's fantastic news. Okay, so I said to you that although I love an audience and I love to talk, it's not quite the same because I can't see you all, but I want you to take now a couple of minutes to think about what actions are you now going to take for your leadership. And I'd love to see it in the chat. I love that accountability. And when you take an action or write an action, make it a smart action. So, be really specific. I am going to spend 1 hour a week listening to podcasts about such and such. I'm going to enroll for my MBA or whatever. or I'm going to talk to my manager about if they will sponsor me to do my MBA, and I'll do it by the end of next week. So be really specific about what your action is going to be. And I'm just going to give you 2 minutes to think about that and to write it down. Okay. Does anybody want to share via the chat some of the actions they're going to take so they can inspire others?
I can share some of them too, Chris. They're coming up through the questions. There's heaps of them.
Oh, great. I can't see any of them. I can only see I'm like, oh, no one's
there. No, sorry. People are posting them in the questions box, which is fine.
Okay, but, got it. Okay,
oh my goodness,
great.
They're just pouring in. Okay, great. Tanya's going to listen to a leadership podcast every day. Liana's going to gratitude journal daily. Janine is going to invest in both of the ladies in her team. That is vital for me. I will now do some training courses. Oh, look, Natalie is going to confirm her enrollment in the Business Chicks Business Club. Woohoo, go Natalie. Caroline is going to listen to more podcasts and develop herself as leaders. Kate wants to do more one-on-ones. Tanya's going to ask her team what they need and deliver to their requirements rather than predicting what I think they need and maybe working hard to deliver things that are inadvertently irrelevant to their needs.
Oh, love that.
Yay. Oh, there's so many.
Okay, thank you, people. So what's so important around that is not just to write it, but to do it, As my son and I had a little chat the other day about kind words, because I was thinking about this whole, kind words versus gifts versus, and he said, Mom, kind words, blah, blah, blah. It's not what people say, it's what we do. That's what's important. So, I think let's focus on that. Now, I have achieved one of my goals in actually being on time, which is so unusual because I love a story.
Yes.
So does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask me?
Yes. The answer to that is yes, Chris. Loads. So we only have time for a couple. So I'm just going to try and get to as many as I can. And the love languages has really resonated for a lot of people. So we will send a link. Maggie posted something in the chat, but we'll send that in the post comms, guys. So you've got access to what Chris was referring to. Okay, let me find. I'm just going to scroll through all the messages from the poll and get to questions. Okay, I've got a question from Tara. She wants to know if you have someone on your team that you don't trust because they're incompetent, but there's nothing you can do about them being on your team, what can you do, particularly if you feel they're untrainable or have so far failed, you have so far failed to be able to train them? How do you control that situation?
That's a really hard one. So what I'm hearing is, I'm just going to take it from what I've heard from that question. The first thing is you made assumptions that this person is untrainable, incompetent, incapable, and cannot learn. So I guess I'm an optimist. I choose to believe that that's not the case for the majority of people. There are some diehard people that are not right. But I would I would challenge your assumption on that, because if you truly believe that, then that's what's going to happen, right? But if you believe that there's something about that person that's added some value somewhere, then you will find that. So that's the first thing. What do they say? What you look for, you'll find. So if you look for incompetence and somebody that's difficult and horrible, that's what you'll find. If you look for someone who wants to learn and wants to be part of a team, you'll find that. The second thing is I'd ask them, and I'd have what I'd call a really I'd have them a really radical conversation. So there's a book called Radical Candor, which I just love. Yeah, so such an easy book, and I've actually made that a exercise in our people coach thing. But what it is, it's about having really honest conversations. So with that conversation with that person, it's actually sitting down and saying, hey, this is not working. I'm not happy, and I don't think you're happy. Here are the gaps. You know, what do we want to do, and what do you need me to do, and what do you want to do about it? And then silence. Because if you're fixing it, you're trying to control it, you're trying to manage it, right? Like, I guarantee it's like being in a bad relationship. If you're not happy, they're not happy. So ask them, right? You're not happy. What do you need to make you happy?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. And Chris, do you manage, like, if there's conflict in this sort of virtual world that we're living in, a lot of people are asking questions around how best to manage conflict during this time, because when you're sort of face to face with someone in a room, it actually probably is easier to have those really difficult convos. Do you have any advice around how to sort of manage conflict in this time?
Well, it's the same thing, unfortunately. It is harder to have it virtually, but I would definitely be doing it via Zoom rather than just the phone, so you can visually see. I would be scheduling a time that is suitable, and even let them say when suits them, rather than saying, are you free at 12:30? Well, that might be the kids' lunchtime or the recess break or something. So let them say it to you, and then just start it. And again, what they say is, if you're feeling peaceful and confident and knowing that you're doing the right thing without anger, it comes across. But if you let something build up and you're frustrated and it will come out. It will come out in a facial expression, it'll come out in a word, it'll come out with an action, it'll come out. So actually, just if you're going to have that conflict discussion, go and get yourself sorted first. Go for a walk, and then just have a little bit of compassion. Come wanting to be curious to solve the problem, not to tell them that they're wrong. But together we want to solve a problem. So it's a mindset shift there in how you approach the person.
Yeah, I love that. And someone once said, I can't remember who it was, but if you go into a situation assuming that the other person is doing the best with what they've got, then you often come from a different perspective, because and that's probably Hunger Project stuff.
Oh, totally.
I speak.
I always say, I always say too, when people are complaining about, parents or partners or, managers, do you really think that any let's say manager or employee turns up every day saying, how can I annoy you today? How can I make it wrong? How can I not add value? How can I, really frustrate everyone? No one actually turns up with that intention. It might be an outcome because of other things, but if you go in going, they're trying to do their best, but they just don't know how, and have you communicated it properly as well, then you might have a different type of conversation.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. We're out of time. There are so many more questions. We'll have to do some sort of follow-up, Chris. I'm going to put you on the spot with that. So
okay, no problem. But yeah, email me at chris@peoplecoach.com. You can find out all about us. And all the best in your leadership journey, not destination.
Amazing. Everyone's saying yes, more of her. I'll take them all as comments.
Woo, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're awesome, and you present.
Love you all. Okay, see you, love. Bye.
Bye. That is all we have time for today. We are literally out of time. I don't think we've ever had more questions. A huge thank you to Christine Kaur, who is an absolute guru. Now, on this similar topic, next Tuesday, we actually have the wonderful Dr. Marcel DeSantis to talk to us on the very topic of having difficult and uncertain conversations with employees during this time. So that might be one that, if you're on this group listening today, it might be of interest as well. As always, you can register for this masterclass through businesschicks.com, and it is free for our premium members and masterclass pass holders. That's a lot of words. I hope to see a bunch of you at our All Stars Homegrown event next Thursday. I'm Olivia Ruello. Have a gorgeous weekend. Take care and stay safe.